So what do you mean by atomic and non-atomic operations? What do you mean by atomic and non-atomic operations? Atomic means if I am trying to perform a DML on a list of records, if I am trying to perform the DML on list of records, if I am trying to perform a DML on list of records, if any one of the record fails, the entire operation will fail. Now, when you say DML operation, we are performing a DML on list of record, one particular DML statement. When I am trying to make a one particular DML statement, any one of the record in the list fails, the entire list will fail, which is called atomic. Non-atomic means if any one of the record fails, only that record will fail, rest of the operation will continue, which is called non-atomic DML operation. Atomic means if any one of the record fail, entire list will fail. Non-atomic means if any one of the record fails, only that particular record will fail, rest of the list will not fail. Okay. So whatever the DML operations that we have done till now, all of them are atomic operation. Let us say right. Let's go on to the story. Let's move on. I have a list of accounts. Then I told insert accounts. Now we are trying to insert two records. Out of these two records, second record will fail. Why? In the account name is a required field, but I have not entered the name, so the second record will fail. So I was trying to make a DML operation, execute it. The DML failed. When the DML failed, there is only one statement I have given, insert, one DML. This is performed on group of records. If any one of the record fails, is it only that record which is failed or all the list of records are failed? So go back here, go to account, check out which are created this week, no records. So what happened? The record which was successful, even that is failed. First record there is no problem. Problem is only with the second record. But when record fail, both the records fail because they are atomic. Do all or do none. So all the DMLs what I performed using the keywords insert, update, upset, delete, all these are what? Atomic operations. If any one of the record fail, all the records will fail. Now I don't want to do that. We have a data loader. If any one of the record fail, only that record should fail, rest of the operation should continue. If any one of the record fail, only that record should fail, rest of the operation should continue. In that case, how will you make it? There goes the non-atomic operation. How do you make non-atomic operations? To make the non-atomic operations, we have database.insert. So these are performed using the methods. So these DML operations are performed using the methods. Right now, whatever the DMLs have performed, they are performed using the keywords. But database.insert, database.update, database.delete, these are performed using methods. They are performed using methods. So how they are performed using methods? Let us see. First we have database. This is the class which contains all the methods required to handle the errors. This class contains all the information about the errors that are generated. This class contains all the information regarding the errors that are generated. This class contains information about all the errors that are generated. This class contains information about all the errors that are generated during the DML operation. What was that? First, get fix. Errors are generated. This will return list of fields on which errors are generated. So what was the database.error? This class will contain all the errors that are generated during the DML operation. This class contains all the errors that are generated during the DML operations. Get fields, list of fields. Get message, error message that was generated. Database dot. Now, when you are making a DML operation of insert or update, when you make a DML operation of insert or update, we want to know whether the operation was success or failure. If it is success, ID of the record will come. If it is failure, error message will come. While you are making a DML operation, I want to know whether the DML is successful or not. If it is success, get the ID. If it is failure, get the error messages. So I want to know whether the DML operation what I made is success or a failure. I want to know whether the DML operation what I performed is a success or a failure. I want to know whether the DML operation what I performed is success or failure. To know that, we have database.saveResult. This is applied only for insert and update. we can track sales. Then we have E success. If the DML is get right. Which DML perform. Get errors. If it is not success, that are encountered. So while making the DML operation of insert or update, I want to track the status. Is it success? If it is success, ID will come. Failure, errors will come. So if you want to track whether the DML operation is success or a failure, I want to use database.saveresult. This is given on every record. 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 Now look at the same story. I think we deleted the previous records. Okay. The same story I am giving. Will equal to insert. Now insert echoes. Till then it's okay. Now database.insert will run as atomic. You keep it as, if it is true, it will run like atomic. If I keep it as a false, it will run like non-atomic. It is not that database.insert always run like atomic. Okay, non-atomic. Database.insert will run as atomic or non-atomic based on the flag value what we are putting. If the value of your flag is true, it will run as atomic. If the value of the flag is false, it will run like non-atomic. Right. So the DML operation of insert will run as atomic if the value of the flag is true. It will run like non-atomic if the value of the flag is false. Because I gave false, the operation is going to run like non-atomic. In the non-atomic, what happened? If any one of the record is failure, only that record will be failure. Rest of the operation will be successful. Now, out of these two, one is failed, other one is going to be success. Now, let us move on. I want to track it. How do you track it? For so we had this structure. So here I am doing if SR dot success. If it is success, then If it is not a success, we are going to get errors. Now I told, after making, is it success or not? If it is success, print the ID. If it is not success, get the errors. No error. So what happened? One record is success, we got the ID. Second record failed because of what? Message. Required fields are missing. So the record which was success, it was saved. Record which was failed, only the record failed. Because it is a non-atomic operation. Atomic operation and non-atomic operation. Now it becomes atomic if I make it as true. It becomes a non-atomic if I make it as a false. I hope you are good with this. So DML can be performed in the atomic way or non-atomic way. It is atomic if the Boolean value is true, non-atomic if the Boolean value is false. Am I clear with this? Clear with this? Any more query on that? Right. Let's go back to the story. The same story repeats for delete. The delete becomes delete result. Update become update result. Upset become upset result. Merge become merge result. But the number of fields and everything is same. Is success, is error, is success, okay, get errors, all the methods are going to be same. But only the point is, if it is insert or update, database dot save result. If it is a delete, delete result, undelete, undelete result, merge, merge result, upset, upset result. But the story is going to be the same. So we can run the DML operation in two ways, atomic way and non-atomic way. Is that was clear for everyone?
Hello, Satish.
Yes.
So here the ER dot get fields, sorry, the get errors message. That method belongs to database dot save result, right? So
Yeah.
why you assign it to database dot error?
See, save result is the one which once a DML is performed, it is a save result. Now with the save result, I am checking whether success or not. If it is not success, obviously you are going to get errors, right?
Yes.
That's what I assign to errors. Line number 23, I am getting the errors if the DML failed. Line number 23, I am getting the data and assigning to database.error if the DML failed. At the line number 23, I am doing it. In line number 20, I am first checking whether it is success or failure. Line number 20, SR dot is success. I am verifying whether the DML is success or failure. Line number 20, I am verifying whether the DML is success or failure. At line number 24, I am getting the line number 23, I am getting the errors because the DML failed. If I am coming to else, it is not a success. Then I am trying to get.
Satish, so my question is not that, Satish. So is SR dot get errors is compatible with database dot error, because if you scroll up, database dot save result contains the following methods, right? Is success get errors.
See, this is the methods which are defined in the save result. Get errors, this will be the list of errors. What are the list of errors? Database dot error. For your understanding, I'll give you. Now, is it okay now?
Yeah, that's fine, Satish. Thank you.
Right about. So I hope everyone is good with this. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the next story. We are trying to understand the next concept here. We are trying to understand the next concept here. That is trigger operations. What is a trigger and why we want to go for a triggers? It's very, very, very important topic and major topic for your Salesforce development. The point here is let's move on to the point. Triggers are the automated operations. Triggers are the automated operations which are fired when any DML operation is performed on a subject. Trigger is automated operations which are fired when a DML event occurs on a subject. When I say DML, the DML can be performed from the page layout. I will enter the data in the page layout, click on save. I will try to delete the record from page layout. I can go to data loader and do it. I can go to web service and do it. I can go to Apex class and do it. Doesn't matter how are you trying to insert the record. Doesn't matter from where the data is getting updated. In the Salesforce database table, if any modifications are done, automatically trigger will be fired. It doesn't matter from where and how you are making the changes. If you are making an attempt to modify the data from any one of the source, now the concept can be a Apex class, concept can be anonymous window, concept can be a Visual Force, concept can be a page layout, concept can be a web service, concept can be ETL tool. Doesn't matter from where you are initiating the DML. But if data in the table is getting modified, then trigger will be fired. So what is a trigger? Trigger is a automated operation which is fired whenever you make an attempt to make any DML operation on a subject. Right. Now, triggers are classified into two types. Before triggers, after triggers. Before triggers means before the data is saved to table. You made an attempt to save a new record. Before the new record is saved to table, what logic you want? After triggers, after the data is saved to the table, what triggers you want? What logic you want? Before triggers, before the data is before triggers, before the data is saved to the table, whatever the logic you want to perform, they are defined. After triggers, after the data is saved to the table, what logic you want to perform? So before triggers, after triggers. Before the data is saved, what is the logic you want to upload? After the data is saved, what is the logic you want to perform? Before the data is saved, what is the logic you want to apply? After the data is saved, what is the logic you want to apply? So before triggers are fired, before the data is saved to the table. After triggers are fired, after the data is saved to the table. Before triggers are fired, before the data is saved to the table. After triggers are fired, after the data is saved to the trigger. So how many types of triggers we have? Two types of trigger, before and after triggers. Now let us go to the next concept. When I say before trigger, okay, we have events. Now the events which fire the triggers before insert, before update, before delete, before insert, before update, before delete, before insert, before update, before delete. After triggers, after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. So how many events we have? So total how many events are there? There are 7 events. Before insert, before update, before delete, before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after undelete. They are the 7 events we have. Again I repeat, triggers are fired when a DML operation is performed on the object. There are classified into 2 types, before triggers and after triggers. Before triggers, they are fired before insert, before update, before delete. After triggers, they are fired after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. Next we have trigger context variables. Trigger context variables. Trigger context variables. What are that? There is a Apex class called trigger. Internally, there is an Apex class called trigger. Internally, there is an Apex class called trigger. In this class, I have static variables. What are the static variables we have? Because they are static variables, we call them with the class name. Trigger.new, trigger.old, Now, all these are what? Variables which are required during the execution of the trigger. While executing the trigger, whatever the data we need, that data will be stored in these variables. These variables will hold the data required during the runtime of operation. Trigger context variables. These variables will hold the data required during the execution of a trigger. Again I repeat, trigger context variables. These variables will hold the data required during the execution of a program. These are the variables which will hold the data required during the execution of a program. Right. Online people, am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, Satish.
Yes, Satish.
Right. So, trigger context variables. These variables will hold data required during the runtime of the trigger. Now, let us start. Once again, I'll repeat the point. What are triggers? Triggers are the automated operations which are fired whenever a DML operation is performed. Triggers are the automated operations which are fired whenever DML operation is performed on the S object. Right. Every trigger is bulk trigger. Every trigger is called a bulk trigger. Every trigger is called bulk trigger. That means trigger always consider that you're working on group of records. Trigger will always consider that you're working on group of records. Triggers will always consider that you're working on group of records. So every trigger is a bulk trigger. What are the events which will fire the trigger? Before insert, before update, before delete, after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. So these are the events which will fire the triggers. Trigger context variables, the variables which will hold the data required during runtime of an operation. The variables which hold the data, variables which hold the data required during the runtime of the operation. I hope you're good with this. Then syntax. Syntax. Trigger name on S object. Trigger name on S object events. Before and after insert trigger on opportunity. Now write these examples. Now complete those two examples. Right, Amma? Right. So let us start the discussion with respect to the examples. Understand carefully. Now I have a table, database table. Now we are trying to insert the data. When you are trying to insert the data, how you can insert the data? Maybe any source, I told you. Now, can you guarantee that always you insert one record? Can you guarantee that always you insert one record? I cannot guarantee. It can be a list of records. I may insert a list of records. If I am using any ETL tool, I might have insert thousands of records at a day. So we assume that always you are inserting group of record. We assume that always you are inserting a group of record. We assume that always we are inserting group of records. What I was doing, I have a this way. When I click on save, what we are assuming is we are assuming that data will directly go and save. Practically what happened? When I click on save, data will go to when it says save, data will go to before insert. Then from here, data will go to. So before the data is saved to database, after you clicked on save, no more control you have. You already clicked on save. You don't have any more control. So before the data is saved to the table, what is the logic I want to perform that is given in before insert trigger? You told save and the data is saved to database. When I click on the save and before the data is saved to database, when I click on the save and before the data is saved to database, when I click on the save before the data is saved to database, what is the logic you want to run that is defined in the before insert trigger? I hope you got my point. You told save, data is saved to database. Before the data is saved to database, if you want to make any changes, those changes need to be made in the before insert. Okay. Now in the before insert, if I write a SQL query, which records you are going to get? Wipro TCS. What about capital? Why? Data is not saved yet. I am running the logic before the data is saved. So if I write a SQL query, there will be no data called capital because the data is not saved. Because the data is not saved. If the data is saved, then I can fetch it. But data is not saved. It is a before insert. Data is not yet saved. Okay. Then how do you refer to the new records? There is a variable called trigger.new. This variable will store the information about all the new records which you are trying to insert. Trigger.new. It is a variable What is the data type of the variable? List of S object. This variable will contain list of all the new records which you are trying to insert. Whichever the new records you are trying to insert, that new records data is saved in trigger.new. Trigger.new. What about why we are not getting the data when you write a SQL query? When I write a SQL query, I will not get the data because the data is not saved. Only the data that is saved to a database can be fetched by writing a SQL query. Only the data which is saved to a database, only the data can be fetched by writing a SQL query. Only on the data I can make a daemon. The data which is not saved, I cannot write a SQL query, I cannot make a daemon. So how can you get that new record? New record is stored in a variable called trigger.new. Trigger.new is the variable which contains list of new records which you are trying to insert. Trigger.new is the variable which will contain list of new records which you are trying to insert. Okay. Then now I told you every trigger will assume that trigger will consider that every time you take a list of record. Trigger will always consider that you are working on a list of record. Trigger always consider that you are working on a list of record. Trigger will always consider that you are working on a list of record. Trigger will always consider that you are working on a list of record. That is the reason every trigger is what? Bulk trigger. Every trigger is which trigger? Bulk trigger. Every trigger is by default bulk trigger. Every trigger is by default bulk trigger. Every trigger is by default bulk trigger. So whether you insert a single record or a group of record, trigger will consider that you are inserting a group of record. It may be a single record or a group of record, but trigger always consider that you are inserting a group of records. Right. So take one by one. Then finally, what is the data that is saved? So have you got the concept? We made an attempt to insert a new record. Before insert trigger fired, made some changes. Finally, capital 0201234 energy is saved. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Right. This is how the logic will run. Let us take an example. File, apex trigger, on account object. So trigger name on account before insert. First step. Trigger dot. Then account A echoes. Right. This is how we are taking. The account. I just give HDFC saved. What is the data? Energy, hot, public. How are you getting the data? When you are trying to insert the data, automatically trigger fired, trigger made some changes, and the data is saved. Are you getting my point? I gave only HDFC, but the remaining data, who set it? When you are trying to insert the record, right, automatically trigger fired, and trigger is making some changes on it, right? So let us take one more example. Let us do one more example. Write the examples here. Whenever new opportunity is created, do this.
Satish,
Yes, Amma.
quick. Yeah. So can you also change the existing data as well? So the data
Yes,
which is on.
that is
Oh, you
update.
can. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
Then how did you write that? This is how I create. Is that was clear for everyone? The next one.
Yeah. Hello, Satish.
Yes.
So here we are not inserting the record, right? So we're not performing a DML operation. Does it going to perform
See,
automatically?
already, no, the point is already you saved the record. The record is about to save. Before the record is saved, I'm making a changes. Already you created a record. The record which you told insert, on that record I'm making a change. Are you getting my point? So here you already entered the data. Clicked on the save. Then only trigger is fired, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The record which you inserted, on that record we are making the changes. The record which you inserted, on that record only we are making the changes. Right, boss?
Yeah. Okay, Satish. Thank you.
Now, let us move on to the next. Whenever industry is banking, whenever a new account is created with industry as banking, then create Wilson as owner. Whenever new account is created with industry as banking, then create Wilson as owner. Then a dot, what I was supposed to do, if a dot industry is right, Emma? Fine. So that's all from my end for the day. We'll continue tomorrow.